Hey, it's James Fathers Rights and Resources, hashtag how I got custody. Remember to check my flow page, which is like a link tree, has all my links in one spot, including the section must see information, where it has science about how kids need both parents, Troxel versus Granville case, and some other stuff. And then there's my store in there and things like that. You know, the must see information, there's a picture of a brain, a picture of a dad with a kid on his shoulders, and then a APA article, American Psychiatry Association journal. There's articles in there, scholarly papers or stats and evidence and statistics showing that children suffer without a father. Then if you go to my store, I have a packet, Motion for Temporary Parenting Plan, where I have all the arguments that I would make, or a declaration in support of a brief or a motion. I have it in two different formats. The arguments why it's in the best interest of the child for the dad to be involved at least 50% of the time. And I even point out how when he's not in the home full time, the kids automatically suffer. And I put all these statistics and stuff together and show how I put it together in exhibit form and stuff like that. If you want to get that packet, I have a video on YouTube where I talk about why there's three items in my store that every dad should have. The evidence rules video, because that's basic fundamental evidence. The motion for temporary parenting plan, where I argue the best interest of the child and the need for a father, and then defense against protection order packet, which even if the mother's not trying to get a protection order against you, it's still arguments and evidence showing how women lie all the time about protection orders, or about abuse, child abuse, domestic violence, molestation, rape. They lie about that stuff all the time, and there's data showing and attorneys agreeing on that stuff. So those three packets are the most important things every dad needs those, to be honest with you. Whether you got an attorney or not, you should make your attorney argue that stuff. And the way that I put that, I have stuff in my videos, people don't grasp it. You go to the court forums and they're totally blank. You're like, where do I start? Well, I have packets of winning documents. I have countless people who've fought off protection orders with my protection order packet. So if you want to check out that video in detail, go to my YouTube channel and look for, they have a whole section of videos. When you go to YouTube, they have categories like latest uploads, most popular. Then I have one about my store and resources and flow page. So check that out on my YouTube channel. Anyway, I want to talk about this bull crap that when children haven't seen their dad for a while, the bond is broken, and that's a reason to have reunification therapy. Reunification therapy is bull crap for multiple reasons, and I've talked about this in other videos, but I want to address it specifically here. You haven't seen your kid for 3 months, 6 months, a year, a couple years. The child doesn't know you anymore, so we need reunification therapy. How come the courts or the mother or a GAL gets to recommend that, and they're not a child psychologist? They get to make up some psychological analysis that says, oh, the child will suffer if the child just tries to get to know his dad again. They're making an assessment or testifying as an expert witness, as an expert psychologist. This is why you need to know the rules of evidence. That's why I have a rule of evidence video. If you Google the rules of evidence in your state, Delaware, rules of evidence, Michigan, rules of evidence, you will find the rules of evidence, and you go through them. If you can absorb them and read them and memorize them and totally understand them, great. Argue that stuff in court. You need to know that stuff. If it's confusing for you, like it is for 90% of people, get my rules of evidence video. It's an hour and 20 minutes. It's way cheaper than getting an hour and 20-minute consult with me, and you get to download it and watch it over and over. I have people I talk to about the evidence rules, and they have to get a follow-up because they didn't understand it the first time around. They would have saved money getting my rules of evidence video in my online store. So, on TikTok, if you go to the link that says Instagram, you have an option to go to my YouTube or Instagram. In my Instagram bio, there's a link to this flow page. And under every YouTube video, there's a link to my flow page. And in there, the first link is to my store. Or go to my YouTube page, a whole section on my store, and you can go to my store from there. And if you want more details about my store, I have several videos on my store. So, that being said, you haven't seen your kids for a year. Somebody says the children don't want to see their dad or they don't know their dad, they need a reunification therapy. I be in court, Your Honor, that's total bullcrap. They're sitting there they're acting like a child psychologist and testifying as a child psychologist. How do you know the children won't, number one, how do you know that the children won't adjust just fine? Number one, we put them in daycare with a total stranger for 8 to 12 hours a day. They did just fine and adjusted. We put them in kindergarten with a teacher they never knew and some total stranger kids. They adjusted just fine. Life is all about adjustments. There's military families that change locations all the time, and kids have to go to a new school mid-year. New teacher, new friends, they adjust just fine. How come they cannot adjust to their own biological father who they used to have an intimate, tight bond with before? You see how asinine they are when you bring that up? But see, nobody brings that up. And then I say something like that, and you go to your attorney about that, and your attorney says, oh, that sounds weird. I've never argued that before, so that sounds out of line with the Twilight Zone world that I live in where we don't talk about reality. See, the courts don't talk about real life stuff. You go in there and you do all this fake court stuff and you use these fake court terms and you go through the fake court routine, and there's a big fat elephant in the room that says the mother's withholding the children want the dad. Let them see the dad. And there's a great argument like what I just said, and your attorney doesn't do it. And then you let your attorney not fight for you, and your attorney is your mouthpiece. Your attorney is you in court, just like Jim Carrey or Denzel Washington's or Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant's agent when they negotiate a new contract or a contract for a movie or another season. That agent is them. It's the ambassador for them. They represent them. Your attorney's going in there and doing their own thing that they like to do, and it's your case in your life, and the results of your attorney's efforts are going to leave you with or without your kid. You should make sure your attorney speaks for you, especially when you see the stuff I'm talking about. Like half of you go to your attorney says, I don't like that, and you go, oh, okay, whatever, I'm sorry for even asking. It's your case. They worked for you. Example number 2. Military reunions. Go on YouTube if you've never seen one and type in military reunions and watch when a kid hasn't seen a dad, and sometimes they show moms too, hasn't seen a dad deploy to Iraq, Afghanistan for 6 months, a year and a half, maybe 2 years. Sometimes they do a ceremonial thing where they'll honor a guy's service at halftime of a football game, and the family standing out at midfield, and they're honoring the father, and they're taking the time out before the football game to honor this guy's service. He's been in Iraq, and we have a message from him, and they're like, hi, I miss you, I can't wait to be home and stuff. Oh, wait, he is home, and he comes walking out the tunnel. Do the kids need a reunification therapist to stand at midfield and talk to them before they talk to their father to intervene? Hell no. Those kids go running to their dad. They don't need coaching on how to reunify with their dad. They haven't seen their dad in 6 months, a year, whatever. I call BS on that crap. And then a guardian ad litem, some radical feminist, man-hating, hairy-legged, hairy armpit lesbian who got molested by her dad says, oh, the children don't know the father. Where does she get that from? From the mother who's alienating them, or from some coach kids? I call bullcrap. She's not a child psychologist. Kids adjust just fine. This is argument number 2. This very same courthouse drop kicks children into foster care homes of total strangers, traumatizing them. And this court is saying you can't return the child to their own biological father. Then, the third example, adopted kids, as soon as they turn 18 years old in one day, they start looking for their parents that they've never seen their whole life. Kids yearn for their parents. They want to know. If you have a long-lost friend, or if you're dating somebody and you guys are falling out of love, what do? You spend more time together. That's the answer. And they're saying, oh, spend more time together with some professional. The court wants to add a reunification therapist, a guardian ad litem, a mediator, wants to drop all these different expenses into the court system. And it's all a big fake phony show. You need to cut and undercut the bullcrap. Then on top of that, there's science. And I just had a guy, he hasn't seen his kid. As soon as the kid was born, he hadn't seen the kid since the kid was born. The kid's about 1 year old. But he spoke to the child in the womb. And there's scientific data that says kids bond with the parent in the womb. And the mother's sitting there saying, oh, in her response, oh, no, they don't have a bond. The child didn't bond in the womb. So now the mother's testifying for the child. Was the mother sitting there in the womb with the child? No, she can't testify. That's the personal knowledge rule. You should learn the rules of evidence so you can know that. You don't want to watch my videos and I say stuff and they're like, man, that sounds good. And you don't absorb this stuff. You should get the stuff that helps you absorb it. But the most laser-like precision you can get on what you need and where to go and how to do it and all that kind of stuff is to get a consult with me. And people will do everything else except get a consult or get my materials or look at my materials. They'll just look at my videos and say, wow, that sounds cool. Call bullcrap on the father doesn't have a bond. You have
you.